Good morning, Mobile, and all of the Gulf Coast. We are so excited you've decided to join us again for our Echo Stop Live podcast here. We have a really amazing show planned this morning. I'm Kevin Horst, talking to you again from the podcast studio, and I'm with my really good friend, Curtis.
How's it going, man?
Curtis. Well, I mean, when I say that, like I'm choosing from the friends available.
Oh, you are. Okay. So you're sliding me just a little bit, aren't you?
No, I got you. But I got a tremendous surprise for you today, though.
Okay. All right.
You like surprises?
Oh, you were waiting on me to say that, right?
Well, it's part of what we do.
Okay. What's the surprise, Kevin?
In our studio this morning, live, talking to us about things that have happened in the past and how we move past them, and really about the positive things in the future, I have another really good friend. Mr. Kevin Newton's with us.
So two Kevins.
Yeah, two
and
Kevins.
one.
Kevins. So does this mean we overtake him then, right? Is this what happens
right.
here? How are you doing this morning?
Don't buy
good.
into
How
it,
y'all
Kevin.
doing this morning?
You're pretty good.
Good to be here.
Well,
Thank y'all for having me.
We are super glad that you came in with us. I've had many conversations with you long before this podcast,
Yes, sir.
and I know honestly what an amazing person you are, and I can't thank you enough for just taking time to come in and really the purpose behind this podcast is to open a dialogue of the community, to have conversations that have probably never been had before with the community, and just share with them real, like just honest things that we think can help bring a change to what's happening. Because none of us want to keep going down a negative path. We want to make a change. We feel like we're making that change, especially with our youth and gang violence in the community.
Right.
It's the purpose behind it, right?
Absolutely. I've already heard a lot about Kevin, and I'm eager to hear more and for others to hear also.
So with that, tell us who is Kevin Newton, and what inspires you?
Well, God, number one, is what inspires me now. I love the Lord. I have a great relationship with Him. I come up in church when I was a kid, but I never had a relationship with Him until, about 4 years ago. And so, over the last 4 years, it's been a great journey. But before then, my past life, I was involved in gangs and drugs and guns and all that, so I know exactly, what you're talking about, so just coming up, I just want to be accepted, by somebody, and want to be cool, and got introduced to a gang and joined a gang and started running drugs and stuff like that, and it just took me down a really violent path, and I ended up getting shot a couple times. I've been stabbed, and
But before all that, Kevin, I'd like to ask people their story, and you're telling your story right now, but there are other parts of your story that led up to that part of your story.
Exactly
right.
I would love to hear that.
Well, leading up to that, I got out of high school, man, and I got married the first time, and me and my wife got separated, and she kind of took off with my child, and that just kind of my downhill spiral. You know what I'm saying? I felt like my world got took away from me, and so then I was just like, the heck with the world and everything in it at one point in time.
So essentially, kind of giving up on the things that you thought were most important then.
Correct.
You sort of were drawn to things that would be accepting or
Right.
was a place to land,
Right.
essentially.
Correct.
And then, just kind of, let's talk about this gang, because gangs here in Mobile, and I'll say this, Curtis, Curtis can back me up on this. We have gangs. We have bad actors in the community who affiliate together to commit these bad acts, and but we're making a change, and it's not as big as the perception would lead you to believe it is, which is one of the biggest things we have in the mindset, which is really dealing with the few bad actors that seem to represent the mass of violence, and really curtail that, and at the same time use podcasts, use other things. We're improving police presence to improve the perception. But what's the mindset? Like, I mean, when we say gang, I mean, you're essentially entering in with a group of other people to go down this path. I mean, what kind of mindset does somebody have at that point in their life?
Can I jump in real quick
Absolutely.
before Kevin answers that?
Are you
Because
gonna
I
get out
want
of
to
the seat when
give
you
him
jump in?
something. Listen, trying to throw me off, man. But look,
right.
trauma is one of those big things that we don't like talking about, but it's very much a reality in everybody's life. And trauma is not just being in a car accident, okay?
Right.
It's a lot of things that happen long before we start to realize or we start to see the manifestation of problems. So, trauma, how was your childhood? I want to just reach out there and just say what impacted you as a child that made you make some of the decisions that you made later in life.
Well, I mean, as far as raised with good morals and raised with manners and stuff, I had good parents as far as that goes. But when we was younger, we were poor. You know what I'm saying? So coming up, my parents weren't never there. You know what I'm saying? My daddy worked at UPS. He didn't get home till 9:30 sometimes, 10 o'clock at night. My mom, she worked till 7, 8 o'clock at night. So it was, when we got off the school bus, it was really just me and my brothers and sisters. You know what I'm saying? And we pretty much did everything around the house. You know what I'm saying? Cooked dinner for my parents and stuff like that. So coming up and some of the counseling I've been to now, like, looking back on it, I think I was just wanting to be loved. You know what I'm saying? Like, my parents wasn't there to love me. So, and that's what I was really seeking, you know, was love in other places that, you know, really wasn't there.
And can I say this? I think a lot of families are impacted by that very thing. It's not that the parents are absent from the home. They actually are, if they are absent, it's because they're working, and they're working a lot, and they're leaving the kids at home to kind of take care of themselves. We used to call them latchkey kids, right?
Yeah.
That's what we called them. You're old enough to remember that. You remember that. Don't act like you don't remember being called a latchkey kid, or maybe you weren't.
Yeah.
But the reality, though, is that sometimes those things make us feel that we're missing something.
Right.
The absence of that parent, although that parent is actually actively engaged from their perspective.
Right. So, I mean, you know, like I said, I had good parents. You know, they tried their best. They were trying their best to raise us and do what they were supposed to do. You know, my younger brother, he had it a little better. You know what I'm saying? He's a doctor. So, you know, he fell on the other side of the track, you know. But, you know, he got that little bit extra loving that I think that we, all my older brothers and sisters, we needed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But
But that's interesting because, you know, and I'm listening to you, and I'm kind of being quiet, which I know is not normal.
No, it's not at all.
But I'm being quiet because you guys are having such a really good conversation, and you're really going to the core of what the conversation needs to be about. But what I'm also hearing is it's not always that the parents are absent. It's the perception of what the parents are bringing into the relationship.
Absolutely.
And how the child perceives that, and your perception of, hey, I just didn't have the attention. I didn't have your. I'm sure if we asked in the other direction, it'd be like, yeah, we loved Kevin. But at the same time, it's kind of like, you know, how was that translated? What did you actually see? And you say this all the time. It's not so much what we say; it's what we do.
Right.
And I feel like that's part of it. And so that essentially worked on the mindset that you had. And I mean, clearly jumping 1,000 years forward, right? We're looking at it now. You're like, no, why would I join a gang? But at the time, your mindset was, no, this is the place for me. I can get the things that I'm missing.
Correct. And so, you know, you hear that saying all the time, idle time's the devil's playground. Well, it's so true. You know, when there's nobody around, you know, and you're bored at home and you're just going out and you're just trying to figure things out yourself, you know what I'm saying? And you end up getting in with the wrong people, or the wrong things, I should say. Because I believe everybody has a good heart. It just, some of us just choose the wrong decisions to make.
Right.
And if we're talking about decisions, let me ask you this, and you've agreed to come here, so you know I can ask you hard questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
But I mean, based on the early decisions, and we're gonna later on in this podcast, we're gonna get to the miracle that is you now.
Right.
But let's go back to the early times. I mean, what are some of the consequences that you faced because of the decisions that you made?
Well, I did almost 4 years in prison, you know, in and out of jail for a long time, you know. And so that was some of the consequences, you know, a lot of time from missing from my child, my baby girl, you know what I'm saying, watching her grow up, being locked up most of my life, you know what I'm saying. So some pretty bad consequences there.
And not to mention that you mentioned that you were injured,
yeah,
shot in the transaction.
I was shot, you know, in the chest twice and right here. And then in 2018, I was stabbed at a gas station on Law Road, you know, just sitting at the gas pump. guy run up to me and stab me through the vehicle.
Yeah, you're describing a lot of trauma, Kevin, a lot of trauma. Sometimes the trauma that we experience may not necessarily be in the early stages of life in terms of the absence of a parent. Sometimes
Right.
it's the absence of good decision making
Right.
by the youth who may be making those bad decisions because the parent is absent, because they're working, and that child is making decisions absent of the parent engagement and involvement, which probably led you to some of the things that you found yourself experiencing later.
Yes, sir.
So, I mean, these things obviously have an effect. Obviously, you're here because you've turned that effect into something good.
Yes, sir.
Something amazing.
Well, it wasn't me. It was God. You know.
Okay.
But-
So,
There you
hey,
go.
well, we're going to give credit where credit's due.
Amen. I'll say amen for you.
Yes,
Okay?
I will. I'm 100,000% in agreement. And sometimes people don't like to talk about it. No, let's call it out for what it is.
That's right.
That's what you're here for, and we'll have those conversations on the show because
Yeah. Well,
we're going to talk about the truth.
He
Right?
did for me what I couldn't do for myself, you know, because
Okay.
while I was trying to drive the car, I kept crashing it out, you know, and I
Oh,
finally
come on, man.
I finally decided, hey, you know, look, I've tried everything my way. Let's try it your way, you know, and
Yes,
I
sir.
give you full range, and I'm gonna surrender fully to you. And man, what a blessing it's been since.
Say it's like having the keys to a 500 horsepower car, but you can't drive
That's
it. Right.
right.
Well, that is absolutely just amazing to even just
Oh, yeah.
ponder
Yeah.
the thought, because we all believe that, or we should be believing that in making our changes. But I want to just take just a moment here and just remind the viewers that have tuned into this podcast that invite your friends, invite your family, invite whoever you can to join us. Echo Stop Live podcast. We're on YouTube, Facebook Live. We would encourage you to join. This conversation is only as good as the conversation
Absolutely.
can be had with those in the community that join us. And so we want to turn this conversation into a sort of a citywide, region-wide, Gulf Coast-wide conversation because we believe that when we have amazing miracles sitting here talking to us like Kevin is today, that this information, this story needs to be shared. It's not Curtis and I's story. It's us being facilitators to bring this information to you. At the same time, if you see something, if you know something, if you feel like there's something that you can contribute positively, we also have a tip line. It's 844-251-0644. That's 844-251-0644. That's an anonymous tip line. Send us your information. We've received over 100, almost 200 tips since we've started the tip line. They're very valuable and super important to help us. It's a way that you can be part of this and help do something. And finally, send us an email at echostoplive@gmail.com. That's echostoplive@gmail.com. Send us your email. We'll try to get at least one question in every show, and we'll certainly go through the list and answer those that we couldn't get to. But before we continue hearing about just this redemption story, what I really want to do is just take a minute to show you a clip that we've put together that we think you might appreciate.
In every single neighborhood across our city lives a child who dreams of the possibility, imagining what they can become. But those dreams can be shattered instantly with just one violent, senseless act of crime. The future of our children is determined by us as parents, as community members, who can every day help make the city of Mobile the safest place for our children to live and grow. So join the movement. It takes all of us to stop youth gone by.
Curtis, it truly takes all of us. It is amazing that we say that.
Right.
And we say a lot of things, but it takes all of us, meaning this isn't something that happens alone. I mean, you just a minute ago, Kevin, where did this change happen? And you gave all of the glory to that change to where it happened, but you recognize that it didn't happen from your own actions.
Yes, sir. Sure didn't.
So let's talk about that now for just a minute. I mean, this dramatic change. You told us where your foundation is. How, what events had to happen at that point to get you from the gang life to where you are today?
Okay, so the last time I went to jail, I went to jail here in Mobile, and I had some time in Mississippi. They extradited me to Mississippi, and I had like 20 years over my head over there. And so when I got to Mobile, I literally I covered up with my blanket and I just started crying, and I was like, Lord, I done really put myself in a bad situation this time. And I was like, I'm not asking you to get me out of anything. I'm just asking you to give me some peace through this and help me get through this time, because I know I made my bed and I got to lay in it this time. And so I sat there for a little while, and I was just like, you know what, maybe I should try rehab, because I had a drug problem, and I was like, maybe I should try rehab this time. And so I called one of my friends from the streets, and I said, hey, can you get me into rehab? And she's like, yeah, what rehab? And I said, well, I heard this Big Fish Ministries in Foley, Alabama is a real good rehab. Could you get me in over there? So over the months, she finally gets my acceptance letter, and by that time I done made it to Mississippi, and I done went from the judge one time, and he's like, Kevin, I'm not letting you go this time. He's like, you're here this time. And so I'm just thinking, man, 20 years is a long time. I'm 30. I was like 35 at the time, and I was like, man, by the time I get out of here, my daughter will be grown. She won't want to have nothing to do with me. You know, I'll be done missed her whole life. And so I finally just kept on and went from the judge one more time, and I finally convinced him to give me a chance. You know, and he was like, well, Mr. Newton, I'm going to give you one more chance, and if you hang yourself up this time, it's your own fault. And so he let me out the next day, and I promise you, I didn't miss a beat from there to Foley, Alabama, getting over there.
Yeah.
And so I got into Big Fish Ministry, and man, I just, like I said, I finally encountered God in a mighty way, and I've built a relationship with Him instead of just, you know, you go to church and you sing the songs and you listen to the sermon, and you know you're just doing the church thing. But when you really get that encounter with God and He's got you weeping on your knees, you know what I'm saying? I mean, there's nothing like it. I mean,
You know something? I'm going to go to a place and take you guys with me for just a second.
okay.
Do I need to pack anything?
No, you don't.
Okay.
Everything's already there.
That's what I'm hoping to
Okay.
hear.
What happened to you from where I sit is that the Spirit of God actually purged your soul. And when He did that, something changed in you that convicted you to change. And since that time, you've been riding.
Yeah.
And that's the powerful thing about your story, because until you got pierced, nothing was changing. So you saw yourself, you turned outward and looked inward, and you saw who you were. And that's because Spirit of God came into your life.
Well, and I'm gonna just, like, I don't want to say piggyback on what he says, but I'm gonna add it too, because I see this a lot. And I think if there's people that are watching, or they know people in the community that are involved in gang activities or the wrong side of the road, so to speak, you know, they're like, okay, well, they got to stop. They need to stop. And stopping alone is not enough. There has to be an exchange. You have to purge the bad stuff and then fill that with the good stuff. And that's the process. And that's what that happened to you in a miraculous way, but that really is what it is. It wasn't enough just to stop the activity. You had to plan a path forward and then start filling that, replenishing what we got rid of with what we know we're supposed to have, and that's the relationship.
Yeah, well, a thing that really touched me was before I left Mississippi, I went to church over there, and this lady came in and spoke. And she was talking about the seasons, you know, and at first I didn't really understand that then, you know what I'm saying? But she was like, the reason most of y'all get out and y'all keep doing the same thing is because y'all keep trying to go back to the same season you were in instead of moving to the new season that God has for you. You keep going back to 1st or 2nd Street and hanging out with your homies and these nasty girls that I was to say, you know what I'm saying, and doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome. You got to change seasons with God and move forward, you know, if you want to do better in your life. And so that really touched me.
And the thing that people don't understand is that sin has no respect of persons, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're black, white, Hispanic, Asian. Everyone's impacted by these things that you're talking about right now, because strangely enough, people would think that we're talking about gangs and we're talking about black people. Okay, I mean, truth be told. But the reality is it's not just a black thing. It is a white thing. It is a Asian thing. It is a sin thing.
Right.
That's what it is.
You
So
just said
we have
something
to,
there, by the way.
we have to look at it from that lens.
Correct.
Yep. So speaking of looking at things from that lens, what, you know, your worldview, how would you sort of compare your worldview from gang life to your worldview now?
Oh, man, it's totally different. Like, it's a whole nother set of eyes nowadays, you know, like I respect police and what they do now. You know what I'm saying? Back then, I didn't really have no love for them at all. But now I know that they're out here trying to and serve and protect us. You know, and I don't know. It's just a different outlook on life for real. Like you know, I want things in life now. I want to do better with myself now. As back then, I didn't care. You know, I didn't really care what happened to me. You know.
Yeah. So, and I think that all goes to it is really seeing yourself. And I think this way, you know, if you don't see yourself as a child of God, you're not going to treat yourself like you're the child of God. And
Right.
so, you saw yourself in that perspective and you treated yourself in that perspective. Maybe because of the way that you felt as a younger child, maybe just because of things going around, maybe just because you were going through a season of your life. But whatever, now your worldview and your spiritual view have both changed because you see yourself both as having value here in what you do in your family life, in involving with things, and in your spiritual life is like, hey, you do matter.
Right.
So we're going to take a break for a second, and we're going to not really go anywhere, but just answer a question. So we received an email here from Sheila in Trinity Gardens, who is writing to us, and she is asking us today, what do we think is the biggest pressure that's facing young people leading them into gang activity? And I'm going to let each of you get a chance to answer that. So Curtis, let me start with you for a minute. What do you think one of the greatest factors are that are leading, and thank you for sending the email, by the way. These types of conversations and questions need to be had, and we want the community to have a voice. But what do you think the largest or biggest pressure right now that is facing our youth in the community that's leading them to gang activity?
In one word, sin.
Okay.
One word. That's just one word. But there are a multitude of different sins. And the exposure that young people have to a lot of negative things or things that may come across them initially as not negative, oftentimes is used negatively, whether it's social media. I heard someone call social media digital crack. I mean, it's the truth. You think about it, because it's in everyone's home.
Yeah.
Everyone's exposed to it. It doesn't matter what your race or ethnicity is. It is there waiting for you to be consumed by it. And it creates a lot of horrible decision making.
Right.
And a lot of people follow a lot of bad decision makers, and they make bad decisions because of those decision makers. So I believe that. So I'll digress from that.
No, well, you raised another point to answer Sheila's question. So, what is the biggest pressure facing kids? But also, you're living proof that there is a chance to change the way we do things beforehand. But what pressures, so you talked about in your personal life, but just from your experience, maybe even talking to other people who are in gangs, like everybody has a different story. What pressures commonly do you see are reasons why people might feel the need to join a gang?
I mean, because it's put on music for one, music and TV. I mean, it's the cool thing to do. If you watch TV and listen to music now, like I don't even listen to no secular music no more. I just Christian music or even Christian rap. Like there's this guy Brian T that does Christian rap, and he just speaks straight out of the Bible. But it's good. I mean, you are what you take in. You know what I'm saying?
So when you purge the old and you replace the new, that's
Right.
also your mindset,
Right.
and
Correct.
it's also what you take in and
Yes,
what
sir.
you embrace as having value in your life. So, well, this is a really good segue.
Yeah.
So we've kind of gotten through the mud just a little bit, get some of that dirt out of the way. Well, if you're looking for that
The mud.
the mud.
Okay.
The mud.
It's what I call that area that nobody really wants to trounce through, but you have to get through to get to that really beautiful field on the other side, and that's where I want to go for just a minute and talk about. See, there was an analogy.
You cleaned
there.
it up, okay?
I cleaned it up.
Yeah, you cleaned the mud up.
Okay, all right. I took you. You took us on
Okay.
a journey. I'm taking
I
you on
did.
one. But what do you So let's talk about this amazing story.
Okay.
What does the future look like for you now?
Oh man, well, God give me a business.
Okay.
I own a countertop business in Foley, Alabama now called Solid Foundation Countertops.
I need to call you.
So it's a Christian business,
Great.
The future just looks great,
Yeah.
Like the Lord blesses me every day, over abundantly with work, and there's shops all around me that don't have any work, and we're just steadily getting work poured on top of us.
Well, why wouldn't you want to engage a relationship, whether it be for something you need for the home or for a construction project, whatever it is? Why wouldn't you want to engage with somebody who is radically and spiritually transformed? Because that work product is going to be so much better, because what is built with the hand is going to come from the spirit and the
Right.
soul, right? So
I
get it.
I don't just look at it as a business. I look at it as kind of like a marketplace ministry. You know what
Absolutely.
I'm saying? It's a experience to go out there and tell somebody about the gospel. The simple gospel is love. Just love on folks and serve them. Go that extra mile for somebody when you're at their house. You know, instead of like, you go out there and put some countertops in, they're like, well, can you hook up my plumbing? Well, no, I don't really do that, but you know what? I'm going to do it for you today. You know what I'm saying? Just to go the extra mile for you and help you out.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. You know, so often people don't realize that what they do should be a ministry. And it's regardless of what you're doing, even if you are a porch sitter, you're not a porch sitter. But if you were, but if you're a porch sitter, okay, that's your ministry. So make sure that you invite people onto your porch.
Yeah. So, well, let's talk about that for a minute because that's kind of where we're headed. So, you know, resources that are out there. I mean, you talked about a place you went to conquer addiction. What resources are out there, whether it be people looking for just community and love? Maybe they are battling some sort of addiction. Maybe they're fearful. Maybe they're making bad choices because they're making the best of the bad choices because the other alternative's even worse, right? They're fearful. There's a competition of if I don't get with this group, this other group's going to, you know, right? And so there's this division, and it's everywhere in society now. And part of what we want to do with this podcast is say, hey, let's change the thought and mindset of division to sort of joining together forces, and then use that, and if we're going spiritual, you know, use that in discipleship, like working with people and discernment, making good choices in crazy situations, and knowing where you're led to do it. So what does your heart tell you? I mean, you see kids now, so you see kids.
Well, I mean, I work with a ministry over there in Gulf Shores and Foley. It's called Frontline Ministries, and we do a bunch of outreach to the youth and stuff like that, trying to, you know, just tell them about the Lord and try to keep them from going down the same path we all went down.
Are you seeing really good things happen through that? Or?
Oh yeah, for sure, all the time. I see people come to Christ all the time, you know, and so
people are making choices based on this foundation, and you know, this is the thing. And they're like if a police car parked in the middle of an intersection, and it sat there, you know, how many robberies did they stop? We don't know because the robbery didn't happen. But clearly, if they sat there long enough, there's probably some crime that didn't happen because people are like, well, there's a police car sitting there. And it's the same thing with what you're doing. You're reaching out and you're sort of parking these spiritual police cars out there, giving people that solid foundation, whether it be through deterrence or through just outright belief. But how many lives are changing? We don't really even know the answer because they never got into that activity because they made the better choice
right.
rather
It's
than
all
the worse
about
choice.
planting that one seed, you know.
That's amazing.
That's right.
Some of us are planters, some of us are waters, and some of us are gatherers. You know what I'm saying? So,
That's a great analogy right
It is,
there.
really is.
I give you permission to use that in the future.
You do?
Yeah, promise. I'll let you do it. Yeah,
Promise.
But what can I mean? You know, you say you have a different respect for police. You know, what can police departments do? We think we're doing a lot of things now to engage in the community, but we're always open for ideas. Like what things can the police department do? What can the churches do in the community? What can parents do in the community?
I mean, I feel like just from being it, coming from that life into the life I'm now, I mean, like maybe like just serve people, you know, go out there, maybe if a woman needs a wheelchair ramp built, you know what I'm saying, look out to companies like me or something, maybe we'll donate the material and just go out there and love on the community, build a wheelchair ramp or cut somebody's grass or, I mean, it could be anything, take somebody's trash out, spend the time of the day just going around and talking to people, you know.
Dare I say that you're saying be part of the community, right?
Yeah.
What? So here's the thing. For somebody that's like listening right now and they're saying, okay, but tell me, like, you know, and I hope nobody's saying what's in it for me, but there may be somebody out there going, well, why would I do this?
Right.
How good does it feel when you do those things?
Oh, it feels great. I mean, it's,
Purpose?
yeah.
Like satisfaction?
Yeah, it feels
better than
it feels good.
Better feeling than when
feels good
involved
to-
in the other activities.
It feels good to know you just helped somebody that couldn't help themselves, or, you know what I'm saying? Or like I said, maybe it's just somebody just needs to talk to somebody, you know. I mean, they're out there, you know.
Yeah, that's and finally, I just kind of want to just have this conversation for a minute. Really, I mean, when is enough enough? I mean, when does enough really become more than just society can handle? Because right now, you know, the perception tells us it's worse than it is, but even what it is still worse than it should be. So when is enough enough? I mean, when do we just say, you know what, stop the fighting? Stop the territorial thing. Stop the trafficking of illegal whatever just to get by and refocus on your purpose, on the gift that you have, and how do we use it? I mean, when's enough enough?
That's a good question.
Want to answer it?
Do you want me to answer? I want Kevin to answer it, and then I'm going to piggyback off of him.
Yeah, I like that.
Oh man.
I mean, it's a bursting point. When do we reach it?
I mean, I think now, you know.
Okay.
I think now. I mean, I think enough's enough now. I mean, I wish for anything people could just get what I got, you know, and that's Jesus, you know.
Wow.
If they could just.
There are so many little powerful statements that just came through this last however many minutes
Yeah,
we've been talking that if you just play this. But here is what I encourage you. 2 encouragements, and they might fire me for saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Join in and join our podcast and replay this podcast. Those are 2 things. So we want you to watch all the future podcasts, but in between that, please replay this podcast because there are so many things that have just been said here that I think I'm going to replay this podcast because when you listen to some of the things that were said, there's such value. And clearly, you know, your journey of deliverance is amazing because you have so many really powerful things that you're not just saying, you're living. And because I know you from even outside here, I know that everything you've said is 1,000% depiction of your life. And I also want to say you're a little bit humble and that you're not bragging about all of the really good
I
things
see
you
it
do.
in him. Yeah, I see it.
I will tell you this, and I will put this out there for everybody that, you know, I've never been out of the country. I just applied for my passport, and I'm going on my first mission trip in March to Costa Rica. So,
Wow.
That's great.
I mean,
Yeah.
to look back on my life 4 or 5 years ago, I would have never thought I'd be in a place that I am now. You know what I'm
So
saying?
you're gonna love it. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll tell you that. You're gonna love it.
Yeah. Well, and I'm just going to say you're going to love the journey of this whole experience. And I know you already love it too, but it's not just about doing good things. I truly believe we were intended to do great things and to enjoy the process.
Yes.
And the fact that you're doing it and you do it with a smile, knowing where you came from and knowing where you are now is not only living proof that there's living hope, but it's proof that just enough is enough. Just do this, and then to take it to the next level. Like you're not just fixing what was broken; you're building on top of that, and that is just an amazing, really, just transformation that's happened. And I'm sure your family has seen it, your friends have seen it, your coworkers have seen
I
it.
mean, you know, the God has restored my whole family. You know, back in the day, my mom used to meet me at the back door with a pistol and tell me to leave. You know what I'm saying? and I mean, now it's my whole family's been restored. You know, I've watched my brother get clean because I got clean and started following God, his wife, and I mean, it's just been
That's what it's about, man.
it's just everybody changing. You know, and it's awesome.
So one person can have a dramatic effect
Yes, sir.
because one person had a dramatic effect on you.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I
The
believe
sowing
that.
of one seed.
I believe
yes,
this.
sir.
So, unfortunately, this show, which could probably go on for another 3 hours, is coming to a close. And again, I would encourage you, if you know something, if you see something, don't just say something, do something.
Absolutely.
Contact us at our anonymous tip line, 844-251-0644. 844-251-0644. Also, send us emails at echostoplive@gmail.com. But don't just ask questions. I mean, we want your questions. But look, listen to the story that we had today. If you know somebody in the community, if you know a story in the community and you want to share that with us, maybe we'll have an opportunity to reach out to that person, maybe even bring them on the show. We want to engage with the community, and we want it to be more than just something we say. So send us emails. Again, echostoplive@gmail.com. Tune into this podcast. Tell all your friends about it. We really want to populate our area, the Gulf Coast, the city of Mobile, with just viewers who want to have and participate in this conversation. Any final words before we break for the moment?
Just thank y'all for having me on here.
No,
Kevin,
the
it's been
thanks
great
are
having
yours. I can also assure you that we'll be giving you one of these Echo Stop Live podcast coins before you leave. These are super rare, only issued to those very valuable people that ask for them or want them. No, they're given to the people that come on the show as well. But we really appreciate you. And man, more than just sharing your story, thank you for just sharing your testimony, because really.
Yeah. That's what it's all about.
This is what it's all
Yeah.
about, and I can't thank you enough. And so until we have you back on again, we'll need to do that.
Yeah.
I certainly wish all of our viewers a safe and happy a weekend. Until next Friday at 8:30, do something. And again, don't just find some miracles. You go out and be some miracles to the people in the community, and help us. Help everyone else make this the great and amazing place that the city of Mobile and the entire Gulf Coast can be. And until we meet again, from Curtis and myself,
Have an awesome weekend.
thank you, and we'll see you soon.